more. We're going to find out more about the Mississippi-based company Bloombridge, who has boomed over the last 6 months into 30 states around the U.S. You may remember the name when Mr. Tony Jeff from Innovate Mississippi was on Good Things, I think last week, talking up about one of their success stories. So I reached out to Kristen Allen, who is their founder, and said, you got to come to Good Things and tell us about your small business success story. So you're here. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And this, to me, is such an interesting story for so many reasons. Let's start with just what is Bloombridge? What do you do?
We are a service to send flowers to your loved one's grave.
Which isn't something everyone would stop to think and say, well, there's a small business idea that I should probably bridge that gap for families. But yet when you hear about what y'all do and then sort of how you do it, you think, once again, why didn't I think of sort of that? So let's rewind just a little bit, because you didn't just one day say, looking for a way to have a small business and thought about taking flowers to graves. This is a very personal sort of experience for you. So what is your connection to taking flowers and honoring grave sites?
So I always have been that person in my family. I would go with my grandmother to put flowers, on my great-grandparents' grave, or I actually grew up playing in a cemetery outside of where I grew up. And so my grandmother and I were in the cemetery one day, and we were just talking, and she said, now don't you let me be the only one out here when it's my time to go without flowers. And we laughed about that, and it's just a fun memory. And so when she passed away, I thought, well, gosh, that's the first thing that came to my mind.
I'm going to have to honor that. Yeah.
Right. And so, and I had, my babies were little bitty then, and I would get up there and do it. And then, my life just started getting busy. And so, that's kind of how Bloombridge was born.
But I think you tap into something that we all don't give a whole lot of thought to, but there is that one person usually in the family that coordinates that and makes sure that the grave sites are covered with flowers on the certain occasions. I was sharing with you, Kelly, that was my mom, whether it was my grandparents, and I had some great aunts that were under my mom's care, or my mom and dad's care for a while, and they all happened to end up in the same large cemetery that's here in central Mississippi. And like clockwork in my family, Easter, Christmas, their specific birthdays, specifically once the pair passed, it would then be honoring their anniversaries. We were getting down the Christmas trees to take the cemetery. I mean, they were a little fake, clean up the ornaments. It would be a family affair to go and sort of remove whatever was there, clean things up, and then do it. So that is a huge part of my childhood. But once your life gets busy, I moved away from home, and sort of my parents keep up that ritual, but I kind of lost sort of connection to it. So I'm thinking, man, when it's my parents' time to go, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that. So
you're going to order from Bloombridge, and you're never going to even have to. You could even do it from right here.
And then I'm never going to have to do it. So now, as I sort of think that through, I'm thinking, wow, this really is a service that sort of helps people feel like they're still connected and doing their responsibility and paying respect, but making it, a little bit easier. What do you feel like your customers get out of that? I mean, by being able to honor their loved one and still have that ability to put flowers and things on the grave?
Oh, I think it makes them feel good, because they're keeping that connection between them and their loved one that's passed away. And it's not something that even has to be emotional, because a lot of times when you talk about death, it's a fine line, and it makes you sad sometimes. That's just a part of life. And so with Bloombridge, like we said, you don't even have to leave your seat, but they're still doing it. They're still remembering, but they're not actually having to take it and find the time sort of to do that way.
And
that's, the convenience of it, I think, too, is great, especially in today's time,
For sure. Well, and if you have family who grew up, who are laid to rest in smaller communities, especially more rural communities like we have here in Mississippi, it's not as easy to make the routes either, when you have the Christmas times or the whatever, right, to sort of do that. Or maybe now having something like this gives you the opportunity to do something you never had the chance to do. So, I mean, there's so many different ways with this. Okay, so Kristen, let's go back. Your grandmother passed on, and you found out that maybe it was a little bit harder for you to keep up your promise, which was to keep flowers. What were her favorite flowers?
Oh, she loves well, they're daffodils, but she always called them jonquillas, or I think I'm saying that right. Yeah, jonquillas is how she would say it. They're these little yellow, they look like little teacups. And then she loved bluebells too.
So how did that transform? You obviously had the spark of the idea from your own need or necessity, but then how does that translate now we're a business? That's a lot. I mean, that's a big step from like, oh, this would be a great idea to Yana and Granny to like, okay, let me put the pen to the paper and see how I can actually make this a small business.
Well, are you asking me how?
Yeah,
Okay.
or like what sort of the steps that went through next?
Well, so I knew that I had a good idea, but I did not know necessarily how to get it from A to Z. And so I went, I have a friend who always like fixed my computers and stuff. He's now my business partner, Justin, or one of my business partners. And but we've been friends a long time. And I went into his office and I shut the door and I said, I have a secret. And he was like, okay.
Should we open up the
right.
door?
And he said, I don't think he knew what was about to come out of my mouth. And I said, hey, I have this idea. I don't know what to do with it. You know, can you help me? And he said, why don't you call Innovate Mississippi, see if they can help you? And so I did, and that is where I met Tasha Bibbs, who is absolutely wonderful there. And through them, she convinced me to do a pitch competition, and that was in 2017. And I did it, and there I met Mike Morgan, who is a mentor. And through him, I met Huey and Lulu and Patrick, who are now mine and Justin's business partners. We're a team, the A-team. And they have so much experience. They've done, other businesses. They've got marketing experience, operational experience. And that's how it happened.
So I want to go back to the pitch part because, like I mentioned, on Good Things, we've had Innovate Mississippi in, and I think either it's this week or last week that they're having their now conference, maybe even as we were talking here on Good Things. And there's going to be entrepreneurs just like you, Kristen, who are going up there and pitching their idea and not knowing whether it's going to be sort of well received. And at this point, Bloombridge isn't a business, right?
No, we weren't even the name Bloombridge.
So it was, okay, so you didn't even have anything like brick and mortar. You just had an idea. Do you have like a post? Like, how do you pitch that?
I did not even have a PowerPoint. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I just did it. I just got up there and talked from the heart. I mean, I don't think I ever once mentioned numbers or, anything like that. But
well, I think that's good for us to hear because I feel like what's holding some back from their creativity of taking the next step into whatever their small business idea is or maybe their innovation idea is when you do watch like the Shark Tanks or the whatever of the world, which you have to realize is very polished and it's a performance more than anything, but they have like a pitch that's coming out of a movie. I mean, they've got all the props, they've got all of the, the models out, they've got all the numbers. I mean, it looks like, oh, that's takes a lot, and it does. I mean, there's a lot of time and effort into that. And then you feel like, well, I can't do that. So how am I going to stand up in front of somebody and present my idea? But you're telling us you just stand up and talk from the heart.
That's right.
We can all do that.
That's right.
And then whether they say yes or no, doesn't really matter. I mean, you're not going home any, worse off than when you came.
Yeah, and I actually won that pitch competition.
That was surprising, huh?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was like, what? I didn't even have
So what did you pitch to them?
Flowers to the Grave.
So, and that was the original name?
That was the original name, yeah.
With the simple idea that just like edible arrangements or any other sort of flowering service.
It was literally just an idea.
That it would just be an idea and then someone took. So how much validation was it for you, Kristen, that somebody actually thought that was going to be a viable business?
Oh, it's priceless. I mean, it was undescribable.
So now that's 2017. We're in 2020. You're now in 30 different states around the United States delivering flowers. Obviously, it's a true success story, but there's a big difference between 17 and 2020. So we're going to get into the rest of Kristen Allen's story coming up next here. You can also connect with Good Things on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. I would love to hear some of your best memories of maybe taking flowers or arrangements to burial sites. I know that, and I know that can be like a sad Debbie Downer to think of cemeteries, but Kristen, who's the founder of Bloombridge, is with us today on Good Things. But you and I were talking earlier about all the warm and fuzzy memories that come with those traditions in your family, which is honoring those that have passed by showing up and showing respect by, switching out the different decor. I don't know if that's the right word to use, decor on cemeteries. And then, you always share the fun memories. And then obviously there's a sense of sadness because they're no longer with you. But then you do get to remember the good times and keep them alive. And you feel like you're doing something out of respect when you do that. And you are helping, Kristen, families be able to continue that tradition with a little bit more ease. Okay, we talked about in 2017 you won the pitch for Innovate Mississippi with no real pitch at all other than from the heart. And quickly you found out this was going to be more of a technology business than a creative business. So you're an artist by nature. Let's talk about that. What's sort of like your area or your medium of art? When did you grow up being arty? Creative. Arty. Arty's a new word.
Actually, you know what? I say that all the time. Let's get artsy. I was born this way. I've been an artist since I was born, and I won my first art contest in first grade. So I knew that's what I was supposed to do. And I have always kind of been an outside-the-box thinker. And I don't. What was the question? Well,
it would just be your media. What is it? Drawing or maybe?
Oh yeah, painting. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's painting. Okay. So painting. But that translates well into the bouquets and things that Bloombridge does.
Oh yeah.
Because that would be sort of your piece. But it's usually, and I don't know which side of the brain creatives normally, if you're right or your left side, but it feels like a technology business would be the opposite side of the brain. So when you were starting to think through the actual business plan of Bloombridge, did it scare you at all that you would be dabbling in more of like logistics and technology than maybe the creative outlet of coming up with the different bouquets or the flower arrangements themselves?
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. But like I said, Huey, who is one of our business partners, he kind of just took me under his wing. He's been the best mentor, and he encouraged me, and I've learned as I've been going. I knew that in the beginning that I was not going to be able to do that part. I could learn and do whatever they needed me to do, but I knew I was going to have somebody teach me that. And I still don't do all of that, but I learned how to put things in spreadsheets. I hated it, and now I love it. And so, I don't know if I love it, but I don't mind it. And I've kind of caught myself doing things for my own personal use now. And so, I just have learned as I go.
Again, there's another part of your story, Kristen, that I find so inspiring for those listening to, to Good Things. It's like you weren't the cookie cutter entrepreneur. No offense. I think you'd be very fair to say that.
Yes.
But you still just had this idea. You sought out the resources that were available, and then it catapulted you. So, okay, when was your first order for Bloombridge?
In July.
In July.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember where it was to?
I do. It was to Louisiana.
To Louisiana. Did they ship out of, is it based in Mississippi?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I actually am shipping them right now.
So, okay, you are the shipper.
I am the shipper.
Are you also the artist of the bouquets?
Yes.
So that was all still done by hand right here in Mississippi and then sort of sent out. So when you started getting orders, okay, first Louisiana, and now you're shipping to 30 states around the U.S., what does it feel like to put those labels on and see that your creation is now going out to over half the country?
Oh, it's a dream come true. It's amazing. I lived to print those labels.
I can only imagine. And going back to thinking, I'm sure when you were giving respect to your grandmother, do you make sure she gets the flowers that she deserves?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the best part, is that I can just feel them like smiling down on me. Like I know that they're proud, and that is the coolest part. It's just knowing that if you really set your mind to something and watching it bloom when you have the right bloom when you have the right people in your life, and it's great. I mean, yeah, it's almost undescribable. It's priceless to me.
The name of your company is Bloombridge, but it started out with Flowers to the Grave, which isn't a terrible name. That was the name that you pitched. But I love the story about why you shifted or why you rebranded. Why was that important for you?
Well, Flowers to the Grave was more about what we did, not really who we were, And I think Bloombridge is a great name for us because, flowers bloom, people bloom too, and they bridge over, to the other side. And it's a connection. It's connecting the two. That's why I think it's perfect for us.
And it's also perfect for you and your other side of your personality. Obviously, once you've got the technology side and the distribution side of it down, which we'll get to exactly how it works. Do you just sit and think of like bouquets? Because what type of flower? It's not fresh flowers, because that would go quick. So what type of flowers do you use?
Oh, we use silk flowers. And yes, I have notebooks full of ideas that I want to create.
Did you sort of think about it when you think about the different bouquets, where did you get your inspiration from?
I just know what I like. I knew I wanted them to look good, but I also wanted to be affordable because I wanted, everybody to be able to use the service. Because sometimes you can go pick out flowers and they're really expensive, for...
Yes, false flowers can be really pricey.
Yeah. So I just took my time and picked them out and put them together. And
so is your warehouse, I know you currently live in Pass Christian, do you have like a warehouse that has I'm just seeing, like, I'm walking into my local like Hobby Lobby or Michael's or, your local sort of silk flower store, and that may not even be silk flowers. You may have a higher quality then. And I just see these rows and rows and rows of beautiful potential flowers to make a bouquet. And then I stop just sheer out of anxiety. I don't know what to go where or what to go with.
Boxes everywhere, and it's not like you don't walk in and it doesn't look like Flowerland. It's there's flowers in boxes, and it's not glamorous. It's just a warehouse. Really, it's just a storage unit right now. So, because we don't have a storefront, everything's done on the internet.
And then they go and sort of order, and then you put it together, and then you ship it out. Does it ship? Okay, so this is the part that's a little bit unique to Bloombridge, is it doesn't necessarily ship to the person who's going to then take it to the grave. You chose to ship it. Does it go to the gravesite, or does it go to the individual to then take to the gravesite?
No. So the way it works is, I'm going to use you as an example.
Please do. My grandmother has already transitioned. Let's go there. Let's not put anybody else in the grave.
No. So your loved ones are buried here, or if they're buried in Texas, or vice versa, right? So if you wanted to send your loved one flowers to their grave, you would go to our website, which is bloom-bridge.com, and you would put in your loved one's information, their city, the state, the name, and what cemetery they're in. Then you will pick out an arrangement, and we do the rest. So what happens is once you place that order, we have an app, and we have our own driving system, kind of like Uber or Lyft, and we send a ping out to our runners in that area, and they accept the job, and then the arrangement gets actually shipped to their home, and they take it to the cemetery. And when they take it, they they clean up a little bit around the headstone, but we're not a cleaning service. And so they put the arrangement out, and then they take a picture, and they upload that picture through our app, and we send it to you, the client, as a confirmation photo.
Well, hot dog.
That's how that works.
That is pretty tactical. And that is pretty innovative in a way of doing that. When you first had the idea, Kristen, was that it, or was it just getting flowers to the grave and then all those pieces fell together when you found the right partners?
No, that's always, oh, sorry.
You know what? That's actually a perfect place to sort of pause. We'll dive into that and how she balances it with her 2 kids coming up next. And we are gathering to talk a little bit more with Miss Kristen Allen. She's the founder of Bloombridge, which is an online service that offers custom designed silk flowers arrangements and delivery. And I'm glad I had that aha moment, Kristen, because I was thinking to myself, I get how you're delivering them, but do you have trucks and systems? But no, you are innovating and figuring out ways to connect with drivers. And when you think about with all of the food delivery now, grocery delivery now, your Ubers, your Lyfts, all of those, this is a whole nother sector and conversation with individuals that can pick up side gigs, just driving their own car. So this was always, when you pitched your idea in 2017 to innovate, you always thought it would be an app type service.
Yes, always.
So you saw that.
I did see that.
Well,
I just didn't know how to make it happen.
I'm impressed with that. So that must have been part of your just heartfelt sort of pitch, because even me, that's genius. So I guess one of the hardest parts for you is getting your Bloom driver or your Bloombridge driver. So how do you connect with drivers in 30 different states?
Well, so I did a lot of the recruiting. So there's a lot of websites out there for people who like cemeteries. Like Find a Grave, Ancestry, stuff, people that are into genealogy too, And so I just started scoping people out, and just
explaining.
And then we did Facebook ads, and stuff like that. But just reaching out to people and
what an interesting way, though, to I guess, again, they're obviously getting paid off their delivery just like anyone else would. And to think of that as sort of just a business idea versus you just hiring drivers that are having to have full-time work or whatever it may be. And this idea obviously resonates with people. On our C Spire text line, Bubba from Meridian said, I love hearing about Bloombridge. I live 4 hours from my grandparents and my parents' future burial site. So you are filling sort of a need that's probably never really been, met before. What is some of the responses from your customers that's given it a try have been? I know they're grateful.
Oh, gosh, yes. And I love hearing their stories. And, I had one customer tell me the other day, she was like, I have not been able to go to my grandparents' grave in so long. And when I got that picture, she said, I cannot tell you. She said it was just the most amazing feeling seeing it. And I just felt instantly connected back. And when she said that, it was like a light bulb went off in my head too. I thought, that's the truth. Like, it is about connection and keeping that those memories alive.
And being able to, I go back to the word respect, but I have to give you respect though, because you're also a mom who's got 2 teenage girls, I think that's what you told me, and sort of juggling all of this. How is that work-life balance? Because sometimes I think that's the hardest part of it all. Then you can have the great ideas but then there's these different seasons in life. So how are you balancing it through the different seasons?
Well, I don't have a choice. So I'm just doing it. And, when you are doing what you love, it doesn't feel like work. And there have been days when I have sat down and cried and thought, oh my gosh, this is never going to happen, but then I just pick myself back up and keep going with it. I have an amazing team. Seriously, Huey and Lulu and Patrick and Justin are straight from God. So they help me, and it's like I said, I love what I'm doing, and so it doesn't really feel like work
when you do that. And going back to 2017, you just had sort of an idea prior to having this epiphany with your grandmother's. What was your vocation? Did you see yourself going in a completely different direction in terms of career? No, I was a stay-at-home mom forever, and like I said, I've been an artist forever, and I would paint, and but I never in a million years. I knew that once this got going, I was like, okay, I'm going to shoot for the stars, I don't have anywhere else to go but up. So that's what I did, and I feel like I lassoed the moon. So it's great. I don't really know that I ever,
No, I did not. I just thought I would paint and, raise my kids. I didn't have a plan.
So what? But see,
I mean,
but see, you are so many. There's so many listening to good things. That's their story. It's maybe they don't feel like they have a plan, or maybe they feel like because they're stay-at-home, moms, they can't shoot for the moon with whatever their ideas are because they don't, they didn't go to college for it, or they didn't have the connections, or maybe they've let too much time go past, or whatever it may be. And you're one of many stories here on Good Things of people who genuinely had an idea, a curiosity. They were brave enough. The first step would be brave enough to share that with others, not just shut a door and tell a friend you had a secret.
Right.
But if that's what you need to start with today, you can start there. But something in them at least ignited to at least, step it out or sort of walk it out. So, what do you say to those that go, that's great, but I'm not Kristen, that can't work for me? And not everyone's going to have a business that explodes in 6 months to 30 different states and start seeing like real results, but that's okay. You would have been okay if it hadn't succeeded too, I think.
Yeah, I would have, because this has taught me so much about myself. And, oh, God, it makes me want to cry.
That's okay. Nobody cries along with good things, so I'll cry with you.
It's just... sometimes it just makes me speechless because I'm just like, you have to just stop, and love yourself. And I really am the perfect example of you really can do anything. They teach us that in kindergarten. You can be anything you want to be when you grow up. And that's what I feel like. Yeah, if you put your mind to it. And that's the thing. Like, you just have to put your mind to it and go for it. If nothing ever else comes out of Bloombridge, I can hang my hat because it also taught me a lot about myself and going out there and just being fearless and doing it. And it also helps that I have an amazing team and that all fell into place for me. And just don't give up. No matter what it is, just keep trying. And you know what? Some advice would be listen. Sit back and just listen.
To the advice that people are
they're giving you.
Well,
yep.
Kristen, one piece of advice that I've heard you say that I would give back to myself, but then also to those listening, if they're thinking still, maybe you're getting excited or whirling around, and as soon as you get excited about something, there's, for whatever reason, there's a voice that will come in and start to give you doubts. It's like, oh, whatever. So if you feel connected with just how her story took off, I say you just tell someone today your great idea. Just start there because get it out from your head and your heart and where it's hiding inside of you, and just be brave enough to find a friend or a spouse, or you can even tell your children in the car ride or line, hey, mommy has a secret or whatever it may be, or dad. It can be that way. I've always dreamed of doing blank, or maybe didn't whatever sound like a great idea, and then at least you sowed that seed, you spouted it out, and then, because going back to the beginning of your story, Kristen, your friend was like, oh, did they say, it was a great idea, let's move forward, or move it forward, or whatever it could be.
He said it sounds great, and I said, well, will you do this with me? And he kind of looked at me and he said, yeah, see what they say. And I said, well, okay, are you sure? And he said, yeah, and we shook hands that day.
So a handshake still has...
A handshake, yeah. With me, it does.
Still has something to sort of do. Well, I can't wait to see when you get back and you're now shipping international and you have your Bloombridge drivers driving on the opposite side of the road and all over the world. I think, like you said, you've lassoed the moon and the stars are the limits for you, Kristen. So where do we go to learn more about Bloombridge? Well, we are on Instagram and Facebook, and our website is bloom-bridge.com. Will there be any specials for coming up for Christmas? Yeah, we have new arrangements hitting the website, and we're constantly, growing that. And, so... Take a look-see, give it a try. Nothing else. What I take away from you today is don't forget your loved ones. Even if you don't use Bloombridge, go visit those sites, get them something pretty on there for Christmas. Remember their memories, share, in those good things. And 2, share your ideas. Get them out on paper. Tell a friend. That's the first step. It can't ever go anywhere if you don't get it out of your head and into the atmosphere. So I hope we've inspired someone to do that today. Thank you for your time, Kristen.
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed it.
All righty, you guys stick with us. We've got a few more good things for you coming up next.